Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Star Citizens Addicts Anonymous. This is episode 14. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Freelancer, and then we're going to have a comparison of the Freelancer to the Cutlass. But first we have some news items. When I was first going through the news items, I saw maybe 5 or 6 things, and I was like, oh, there's not going to be a lot to talk about in news today. And then what I found out was that hidden in there was some gems. So the first thing is that I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but Star Citizen shirts and Squadron 42 shirts and the polo shirts are all on sale for $5, but they're extra small and smalls. So I'm wondering if part of the New Year's resolution from CIG is that all of us lose weight. In actuality, what went on is that they had an abundance of these sizes ordered, so they're giving them to us at a reduced rate so we can buy them for, well, maybe one for my daughter, maybe the guys out there want to buy one for their girlfriends or wives, and give them to them for a Valentine's gift. That would be a great idea, wouldn't it? Next thing, we had another piece of lore. This one was called This Day in History, and it was depicting a story about a gentleman by the name of Russell Vallon, and he was one of those Doogie Howser types that was a, well, brainiac, graduated with dual doctors at a very, very young age. And what this story is talking about is Russell in his head had it that we would never be able to populate the universe the way we should in always searching for jump points, that we could only get to a limited number of places, and it was going to take a lot longer to get mankind's reach out there into the galaxy. So he started an endeavor from a bright early age on through his lifetime of trying to come up with a faster than light engine, which he eventually called the Chariot. The story ends with him being, kind of an eccentric person. He brings everybody together and says, hey, look at me, this is my ship, and I'm going to launch it into the heavens at the speed of light. And as soon as he hits the button on this ship, which is powered by his chariot engine, it explodes. And there are just fragments left. There was a joke that came out of this, and here's what it is. While the scientific community and Spectrum representatives had turned up expecting failure, there was a small part in all of us that was hoping for something monumental. On the bright side, Dr. Vallon's engine exploded faster than any other ship I'd ever seen. I don't get it. No, just kidding. Well, that's just one of the things that's in there. Now, I'm reading between the lines here, and I'm wondering if perhaps his engine was successful, and the little bits and pieces that were left behind, you know where I'm going. Maybe we'll see him. Otherwise, why did they put this here? Maybe they're trying to support the jump point theory. I'm not sure, but I'd love to be exploring, because that's one of the things I want to do. I can't wait for my Anvil Carrack, and maybe I'll be one of the people to find out what happened to Dr. Vallon. Foundry 42 contest winners. That's a nice little video that's playing up behind me over here. Aaron announced them this past week, I believe sometime around the 14th. And these were the winners. 5th place winner, which was Star Wars items, that Star Wars game that he was going to be doing way back. And that went to Silvestri. The Squadron 42 Combat Bundle, which was a 4th place. And that is to me, that was a really big prize. That was the Hornet and the Scythe. That went to Wooya Tuya. 3rd place, Privateer 2, the Darkening Model, and a poster and a box, which are all going to be signed by Chris and the team. That went to Vexian. 2nd prize was the Idris M, a really big prize, because it is not obtainable through the Pledge Store at all, nor will it ever be again. This is probably the last one you'll see given out, I think. And that went to Masisco. And 1st prize went to Magaddon. I'm gonna be worse than Eric with mashing apart everybody's name. But he got the Wing Commander 3 jacket that was one of 2 that were produced, and it'll be signed by Chris when he's there in Manchester this week, and then sent off to him. We had another Meet a Developer with Sandy, and this one was Brandon Evans. And Brandon Evans is a UI designer, used to work on a think tank for military projects, which of course he can't tell us. But he's in charge of all the UI development and systems that have to do with what you see displayed on the things in front of you in the ship. So if you want to learn more about what he does, go out there and watch this video. It's in the comm link. Lore Builder 12 came out this week, and Lore Builder 12 is actually delving a little bit more deeply into the squadron numbering system. And I love David's work. That's why he's going to be on my show, and I'm going to interview him. And I want you all to go out there and read it. But essentially, they're explaining squadrons and flights this week and how they come up with it and how the flights will take on the name of the ranking officer in charge. And then they go into a little bit more of the depictions of the ships and correct some errors they made last week. It's an interesting read, and if you're going to play through the Squadron 42 or get involved with any heavy-duty missions in Star Citizen, you're going to want to know what they're saying on the comm links, and this is going to help you. The second part of the comm link, this comm link for the Lore Builder, is they're actually starting to get deep into the actual celebrities. Remember, we talked about syndicates and pirates before. This time, we're talking about what celebrities exist in the Star Citizen universe. And these are being created in one paragraph, little posts in the comment section below the Lore Builders by the actual community. So if you want to create your own persona or your own celebrity in the game, you can do that just by going out to the thread over here and putting your information in a one-paragraph submission into the comment section. All right, so that brings us to Wingman's Hangar 53. And unlike some other podcast, video casts, I should say, which do an amazing job at recapping everything that went on in it, I'm just going to pull out some of the little tidbits that make a lot more, well, just the little juicy tidbits, I'll call it. So, the first thing that we got here is there are a lot of you that want to be in the gaming industry, and there are a lot of openings at CIG. Here's just a few of them. So if you want a career in CIG, God knows I would love one, just submit your resume and who knows, maybe you will be selected. The Austin office is getting up and running, and one of the big things that they got to get done over there is going to be their internet connection. We all know that that is one of the things that's impeding them from doing the live stream on Fridays and why it's had to go out live on YouTube instead. Can't wait for that to happen. Good luck with that, Eric, Rob, and everybody else there. Ben has left town, and I've been saying this for weeks. He is now on his way to Santa Monica, and he's going to be working very closely with Sandy and Chris, but he has no place to live. Is there some way, somehow, somebody can put him up for a while? Just kidding about that, but he's got to find a place to live out there, and that's his own business. But he'll be very close to Chris and Sandy, so we'll probably be getting a little bit more information from him. He will still be doing the Wingman's Hangar episodes and doing the MVP at the end of that show. All right, so here we go. We're coming into one. Well, I was going to make fun of Eric for messing up Ticonderoga, but evidently I have the same issues you'll see when you see my Freelancer review. All right, so organizations were the big thing that were announced in this week's Wingman's Hangar. We all know they're coming. I promised them by the end of last month, I believe, and a couple of things were a little bit lacking inside of it, and one of the things was chat. So what they've done is they've invited all of the subscribers into a alpha test group, and I'm a subscriber, and this is everything I could tell you about the actual organization module at this point. So, gotcha, I can't tell you anything. Anyway, I could tell you exactly what they said here. So the organization structure, system is going to roll out this month. And you're going to be able to choose your organization, join one and only one at this point. In the future, you'll be able to join more. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be limited at first. You're going to have chat, but no private forums. They'll come later. You're going to be able to organize your structure, but not have an org chart yet. That will come later. So it's the beginnings, and let me tell you, it's a very good beginning. And that's about all I'll get into. So if you want to see what they're talking about, because I believe it comes off better from the gentleman that talks about it from Turbine, watch the video and learn everything that you can, and hopefully these will go live as soon as possible so I could get you all into the enablers. Alright, so after that we had another 10 for the chairman, and I do this as a separate away from Wingman's Hangar. And like I said, I only like to take out certain little tidbits, and this is one of the things that I'm going to pull out first. There were a couple questions about how AI is going to react, and Chris came back and said he wants AI to be as close to human as possible. If you fire on them and you're more powerful than them, then expect in some cases they're going to drop their cargo and run. In other situations, maybe they're going to use tactics that are unlike what you're used to in other games where the opposition is AI. Also, he said kind of sort of in there that when you're flying up to the ship, he doesn't want you to know if it's a human being or AI. He wants them to perform that well. That's going to be a very difficult thing to produce in today's world. But if you look at the next excerpt, which is going to be his visit to Manchester, you're going to find, if you watch on the, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So he really wants the AI to be good and be very dynamic and give us a run for our money. So in the situations where we're not in PvP, we're still getting a very good experience. Rating systems, and this is just pulling out of a question that he had in there. There's going to be rating systems for how good a player is at delivering what he promises when he signs up for a mission, or the payments that the organizations put out. So this rating system is going to have a lot of little things that it hits on, so expect this to be a way that when you're looking on the boards to pick up a mission, you'll know, do they pay well? How often do they have good missions? What type of corporation are you working for? Who is this person? Do they deliver, or do they just make a promise and take off? These are all the things that are going to be in there, and a lot more. And it's going to come out, it's going to be, well, we're not even going to know about this until the game is actually live. So they have a long time to work on this. Alright, so there was a question about melting ships. And let me tell you, I've played the buy and melt and buy bigger and melt and buy bigger and melt and buy bigger. So what's been said here is that the minute you assign that ship to a character slot, there's no more melting. It doesn't mean you can't sell it in-game. It means you're not going to get back your currency, whether it be dollars or euros or whatever else you pay for your ships in. You're going to not get UEE credits for them either. You're not going to be able to melt it. You're going to have to sell it as a used ship. The question then expanded into, what about the dogfighting module? And Chris said, I don't know how long that's going to go on, but I would like you to be able to try out the ships and see how they work and fly them in the dogfighting module, but I don't want that abused. The minute that you do assign it to a character slot, however, you won't be able to melt it. And I agree with that. Alright, so I think that's about all the questions I want to go over. There's a lot more, and I think Zig had a question on one show on forum feedback, and here, good job getting 2 questions out there. That was awesome. Watch 10 for the Chairman. They put a lot of work into it, and it's all there for us, especially the subscribers. But there's always a lot of information that comes out of that we don't get in other places. Alright, so Chris traveled to Manchester, and there's not a whole lot to say about this. It was 2 brothers meeting, and it seemed to be that he met a lot of the staff before because he was shaking hands, and they seemed to have a rapport. But I want you to watch the video. I don't want to go and summarize it because there's a lot that goes on in that video. If you're watching the actual screens, seeing the things that they're building on there and listening to what they're saying, and I'm not going to give anything away. Everything that I can give away is given away in the actual video, so go out there and watch it if you haven't. Alright, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the next great starship, and we're going to do the famous iPad toss. Next Great Starship is an amazing thing they're doing for us. They are involving the community in 2 ways. They're involving the community of modders, and eventually they're going to have one hired into CIG to make a ship for us to purchase. And the second way that they're involving the community is this is going to be a weekly episodic contest. So it's starting on the 31st and then going every week, I think for 12 or 16 weeks. Listen to my last episode and listen to Sandy's interview. She will tell you exactly how long it's going to last. This week on the website, they have up there for us a poll on what we want them to be competing for. So there's quite a number of ships up there. Pick the one that you want the best. I'm not even going to say one because I don't want to say a word and people think that's the one I want you to pick. So pick the ship that you like, because this is the only way that we're going to have a fair way of getting our decision out there for what they can build. And if this goes well, I wonder if they do another one later on. That would be cool if they had at least one or two a year. That would be better than cool. That would be amazing. So I am going to be committing to you, whether CIG gives me access or not, to bring to you the weekly recap of Starship, the next great Starship. I've tried to talk to Sandy and see if there's any way to get any kind of info ahead of time, and there is not. There's no contact with judges or with the contestants, and I understand that. You don't want to sway anybody's decision. So I'm hoping that they give us some kind of canned footage or statements from people that we could use on shows like this, on The Whole Truth, on StarCast, or on Beacon 147, or any of the other video casts out there for the Star Citizen universe. And now for a recap. And I don't know how much of this is you guys, but last week I talked about Roculus's wife and her fight with non-alcoholic liver disease. It's going to be going on, this fundraiser, through February, and I think they made about $1,000 since the last show. That's not enough. They need $25,000, but I'm amazed with how well the few people that actually watch my videos, and I know there's 2,000 of you that watched last week's, or thereabouts. I don't know how accurate YouTube is at justifiably telling me how many people view my video, but I'm very impressed that you were able to help them. I'm not going to continue begging you to help them. I'm just going to give you an update each week and tell you to go out to their website and take a look. Because I think that charity is something that is from within your heart, not because somebody tells you to do it. And the last thing I would want to do is start feeling, looking like one of those bleeding heart people that tell you to do it all the time. That's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for giving me the time to talk to you. And that's a lie. It's not all I got for you. I've got the Freelancer review, Freelancer versus Cutlass, and then another confession of a Star Citizen addict. And then you guys are all set free. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you about the news again next week. Bye. Hello everyone, Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here today for another view into my hangar. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite ships, and that must be getting old because I have a lot of ships I call my favorite. But I'm going to talk about a counterpart to the Cutlass. That ship right there, the MISc, or MISc Freelancer. And I want to do this before the Freelancer starts to see some variants. That way I don't have a 16-hour show to do in the future. So we're going to talk about the Freelancer, and we're going to contrast it against the Cutlass. So since my Freelancer is a bit away, we're going to walk over here to my trusty Grey Cat buggy. And my maintenance crew has removed it from my Freelancer yet again, probably to give it a nice cleaning. I'm running the current hangar module at 1920 by 1080, but motion blur off, mainly because with all the extra ships that I have now in my hangar, it's been a little bit, how you say, a little bit slow. I'm still playing on my iMac, which has a mobile graphic card in it. We're going to turn on the lights in here that somebody, I got to remember who you were, told me to do. And there we go. There is our ship. So let us get out here. Alright, as we walk away from my buggy here and get to this nice little off the left nose shot of my beautiful baby over here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Freelancer. The primary role of the Freelancer is exactly just like its name. It's for a freelancer, moving 20 tons of cargo from point A to point B. Now, listed as the primary role, there's going to be a lot of places that this ship goes into that are going to be more or less, what's the word I'm looking for? More or less unlawful or lawless. So you're going to be going into spaces where there's going to be a lot of that ship behind you over there, off to my right. And you're going to need a lot of firepower to take care of them, and this ship carries that. So let's talk a little bit about the dimensions of the ship first, and then we're going to take a walk around it and look at some of the more interesting characteristics. So the first thing that we're going to see here is we have a ship that's about 32 meters in length. For those of us in the States, that's just about 100 feet. It's got a 25-meter beam. It's got 8 meters in height, which is just over 23, 24 feet. And it's 55,000 kilograms. So it's a pretty heavy ship, and, well, not that heavy, but it's heavy, and it's got a little bit of length in it. And the reason why I talk about that is I talk about physics. This thing has a pretty decent engine to get it going. But remember, whenever you turn, the engine is pushing you forward. All these maneuvering jets have to be able to turn you around, and thus need to counteract, in real Newtonian physics, the momentum you have in moving forward. So there's a lot of weight, and weight times velocity, I think it is. Mass times velocity equals momentum, right? Something like that. We need to be able to turn this ship, which means, more or less, it needs a lot of thrusters, and it does have a lot of thrusters. There are 8 TR2 maneuvering thrusters on this ship. If we move up here under the nose, we can see here are 2 of the TR2 thrusters. They're quite large. See them? They've got to be able to handle the mass that's on the ship. We also see another one here, another one there, another one there. So that all together in the front of the ship, off of the, towards the front of the ship, in front of the center of gravity, are 4 big thrusters. In the back, you're going to have a TR2 here, and you're going to have them back here also, and then on top, which we can no longer jump on top of the ship. Alright, so what else could this ship do to help it maneuver better? So we're going to talk about the weight and what the ship can do to maneuver just a little bit better. So you have these over here. These are the wings, and on the wings you have 2 big TR5 main engines. Nice big size. But, they do have, I keep going back and forth, they do have the paddles on it, and do have the opportunity or the ability to direct thrust into many different directions. But then it has the other hidden secret. This whole wing is on a pivot, mostly for being able to land vertically, but also for being able to maneuver the ship a little bit better. The pilot will never have to worry about those at all. The ship's computer will automatically be maneuvering by moving thrust to the specific maneuvering jets that are needed, and by, well, altering the actual pitch of the engines. Pretty nice, right? So let's talk firepower now. So now we're going after the Cutlass, which is going to have a lot of firepower and speed. So in firepower up here, we have this twin hardpoint. And on the side of the ship up here, we have, I believe it's a twin class 2. And I believe that there's room for 2 more class 2s. So there's 2 twin class 2s. Right now, those look like M3 or M4A laser cannons. They're probably M3As. So that gives us 4 forward-firing guns that are going to be on gimbaled mounts. Now, when I did my Freelancer video, I was explaining the gimbaled mounts, and also when I did Starlancer. Essentially, what a gimbaled mount does, if you look, this whole mount is on a swivel. So it could move up and down. So as the ship is rolled and pulling a turn, those could actually be moved forward or back to either lead or lag the target that you're firing at to ensure that the lasers actually hit the target. So this is all being done by the targeting computer, which means if we take a hit somewhere in that area of the ship that knocks out the targeting computer, that whole system is going to be null and void, and it's not really going to be helpful. If we move to the wingtips over here, we have a lot of hardpoints for missiles. It kind of looks like a cross between a Sparrow / Sidewinder missile on the outside, maybe AIM-9X, and that kind of looks like an ATOL or an Amphid Russian missile. But these are, if I get this right, please help me, they're going to be 2 twin underwing class 3 weapons hardpoints, and weapons, you know, the class 3s are going to be missiles. So if we look over here right now, we have a total of 6 missiles, so that's 12 missiles in all. So it's got a big ship and a big blind spot, and I don't see one of those little backup TV cameras that we have on the newer cars today. But right up there, we do have a class 5 turret, and that class 5 is a manned turret. So somebody's going to run back here, and this does have a minimum ship crew, or a minimum crew of 2. Somebody could run back here and take over that turret. I'm sure it will fire automatically also. So we've got a big ship that's able to maneuver with a lot of thrust. So what's the power plant in here? Well, the stock power plant is going to be a size 5. And that means that there's going to be a lot of excess power to run the systems that come stock. As you're adding more and more things to it, that's not really going to be the case. You're going to have to play that rock, paper, scissors game that Chris Roberts likes to play with all the ships that he has created in this game. So currently, the factory power plant is the group, I can't even pronounce it, folks. I'm going to put it up there. What we're looking at is a large power plant. We're going to come around the nose here, and I don't know if this is listed, but this has to be a very large tractor beam. Why? We're a freelancer. We're picking things up. Now, the tractor beam's not listed on the stock equipment. A jump engine is. So as time goes on and variants are released, and this is actually upgraded to the stock machine or stock ship, this might disappear and be an upgrade that you purchase in the future. Kind of like what happened to us with the Super Hornet over there, and with a couple of other ships that have been in our hangar. So I'm going to take one more last walk around the ship. That, of course, up there is changing the cockpit, and we'll talk about that in the future. We could see on this side all of the maneuvering jets. And we can see all the missiles against what will be our chief adversary over there. I can't wait to see all the weapons hardpoints that are going to be unleashed on us when they finally finish that ship over there. Currently, I cannot open this cargo bay door from outside. Really big foot right in front of where the cargo bay door hinges from. That way it is bracing the ship as you're moving heavy equipment on board. There's our articulating wing, and the engines will actually move forward and back. I've seen that in one of the videos by Anything FPS. Alright, so we've got a nice look on this ship. And let's go inside and talk a little bit about it. Now, as I'm walking inside, I'm going to talk about MISc themselves. They are one of the only corporations, if not the only corporation, that tried to merge with a Xi'an corporation, and it failed. But there's a lot of technology on this ship that's a cross between UEE and Xi'an technology. There's also a lot more spaces in here than there are crew members that are listed as, you know, maximum crew. What I think they're actually looking for is minimum crew. You've got a workstation here and here, that's 2. If you were flying in a C-130 or C-123 provider, this area back here would be the loadmaster's space. And although this use button is coming on over here, it's actually the use button for the way out over here. Alright, as I go forward, there's 2 more stations over here. There's 4 bunks, slash, I believe these are also similar to the Constellation with their bunks and emergency escape pods. And then we have the pilot seat and the co-pilot seat. Let's get into the pilot seat. And there is a little bit of a bug in the current mocap where getting out of it gets you stuck for a little bit. So when I'm trying to get out, you're going to see me jumping around. Currently, there's not a whole lot of, well, there's almost no visibility in this ship whatsoever. You'd have to rely heavily on avionics that are not in the ship yet. The ship is not done by any means. It is a first or second pass, and they're going to be doing another pass on it in the future. We know that at some point, just from Chris's statements and statements by those on the RSI website, that this is actually going to be one of the units that are going to be receiving variants in the near future. The near future could be between now and March or now and April. Remember, we have a lot coming out before then. So, one thing that they did show us was the rework of the canopy. So the windscreen is going to remove these 2, these 2 columns over here, and it's going to move these 2 back, so you can have a lot more visibility here. And I believe there was a little bit more visibility up here. I think they could have done something with making the avionics more updated over here. It is Xi'an and UEE type. I'm just looking around the cockpit, sorry to lose my place. But the actual technology is Xi'an and UEE, and you would think that it would have a higher quality avionics suite, and I think that's something that we're going to see in the future. Probably a big giant radar that we'd be able to see over here, and maybe a holographic HUD or some articulating device that comes down to give us more of a picture of our situational awareness. So we're going to actually move ourselves out of the ship, hopefully. Nope, this is where we got stuck for a little bit. And I might have to jump past this. If I show you, you can see my feet are stuck over here right now. And that's just a little bit of a graphical glitch that is currently... Oh, I was able to squat and jump. Isn't that fun? That's a graphical glitch that will be fixed in the future. There's a lot of places where in this current build, you get stuck for a couple of seconds, and it just needs to be corrected. Through this door over here is the actual... There you go, the cargo room. So you've got cargo room here, which you could use for putting things like extra weapons, ammunition, or actually carry some more items. Back here is the main cargo area, and this is where you carry most of your items. My thinking is these go nowhere. I don't see any access up there. And this is just another one of those placeholder displays. So we come back here, and currently there is, if I click that, there is no way to get up in the turret. I'm sure that will be released later. Now when this first came out, this piece over here would touch the ground, and this piece wasn't here. So it would be a really steep, really steep ramp to try to load. And putting things into the Freelancer would have been, well, you would have lost the immersion. It wouldn't have been as easy as it is now. But currently, putting things in the Freelancer is actually no more than driving to the rear of the bay and driving up the ramp. This is where you find out that Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo cannot drive. I can fly though, I guarantee it. Oh! That wasn't very good. So you could actually put your gray cat inside here and fly it off to another area. But should you leave it in here, it is not going to stay in here. It is one of the things that lacks persistence right now. So the Freelancer is, at best, a ship that's able to fight its way into pirate or lawless space and make its deliveries and pickups. But it's by no means the best ship for dogfighting. And I'll give you a, for instance, back in World War II, there was a multi-person fighter. It was the P-61 Black Widow, I think is what it was called. It was primarily a night fighter or bomber interceptor. It had two really big engines, and it had a crew, I believe, of 3 or 4. And while it was a beast in the air, meaning it really looked like it could kick butt, put a Japanese Zero, Oscar, or Tony on its tail, and only if the pilot is one of the top 5% in the USAAF at the time are they going to be able to hold their own and hopefully come out unscathed or with just a few cannon shells in the actual fuselage. But let's talk about some of the other things to see how does a big ship, how does it make itself more attractive to someone that might get into a furball. So first off, we talked about the length and we talked about the width and beam and mass, and then we talked about some other things. So we've got 20 tons of cargo space. We've got 2 persons that need to man this, so it's a minimum crew of 2. There's 10 slots for upgrades, and of course upgrades could be anything from cargo scanners to stealth generators to whatever else you want to put in here. It's got a max power plant size of 5, so it has all the energy it needs to run those systems. It has 2 TR-5 engines, so not the 6s that are in the Connie, but for a ship of this size, that's a substantial push. It's got 8 TR-2, and they're MISc Shytech or Shyantech, I guess? Shyantech? Maneuvering thrusters. We still don't have what the kilonewtons are on them, but my guess is they're going to be strong enough to move this thing pretty handily. You've got a max shield of 5, so that's one of the first key things. The shield is going to be able to withstand a lot of the energy weapons that are out there for a time, giving the opportunity for this very fast ship to escape using one of its best offensive capabilities. A good defense. Get out of there when you can. And the shield is the Beijing GH-146M. We talked about hardpoints. There's 2 twin Class 2 gun points on either side of the forward fuselage. There's 2 twin Class 3 hardpoints on each wingtip. There's a Class 5 turret over in the back. And of course there's this, what looks like tractor beam in the front that's not listed. It does come with the Tarsus Leaper jump engine, so this is a jump capable ship. I love the Freelancer. It has a look that is so sci-fi to me, and although I know in my heart it is not the Serenity, it has the best or most, well, it looks most like a Firefly ship than anything else in the actual hangar I have. But I will say that that ship over there actually does look like it fits in a world where this ship does. There we have what will be a matchup that we'll see quite often in the Star Citizen universe. A Freelancer against a Cutlass. We talked about the Cutlass last time, or I should say the last time I did a ship review. And what we learned very quickly about the Cutlass was that it's got a lot of firepower that can be brought to bear. It's highly maneuverable and fast. It's probably much more maneuverable than almost any ship in the game except for probably the Hornet. Alright, so what else is different? The armor on the Freelancer is going to be a lot thicker. It's going to be able to take a punch. That, without a doubt, is going to be one of the more true statements in this. What you're looking at here is more similar to a Hellcat versus a Zero. A Hellcat back in World War II, thicker, heavier, beefier, self-sealing tanks, armor plating behind the pilot's head. It was a ship that was able to withstand a lot of punishment, kind of like today's A-10. What you have on the right side in the Cutlass is more like a Japanese Zero. It's lighter, it's faster, it's much more maneuverable. It's got armor that's made out of tin cans, and a stray bullet could probably take it down. It's going to rely heavily on its ability to outturn and accelerate away, which we call disengage or extend. So what you're going to be seeing is a Freelancer trying to just get its nose on the target as it's coming in and pulling away, and a Cutlass trying to turn in on a Freelancer and get its weapons to bear and take it out. The secret weapon in the Freelancer is the shield, and to a lesser extent, the Class 5 turret. I don't know if there's a secret weapon in the Cutlass. I guess the thing with the Cutlass is they're going to be attacking in packs, like pirates would do. Kind of like the rogues in Freelancer. You never met one, you always met many. Whereas a Freelancer will usually be flying alone, which I doubt it's the case, but if we think about what a Freelancer is, he's a loner, kind of like Lone Star in Spaceballs. He's a loner and somebody that's going to be just, interested in getting his package from A to B. Maybe he has somebody in a Avenger or a 325A flying backup for him. A tactic that might be happening might be a Cutlass that tries to draw a Freelancer into a furball, and then as the Freelancer engages, all of the Freelancers, the Freelancers then jump by all the friends of the Cutlass. This is a tactic that was used by MiG-21s in Vietnam, where you would have one fly out alone, and then 1, 2, or 3 MiG-21s lag far behind it. If the Phantoms would engage the actual MiG-21 in front, the MiG-21s would hit throttle and catch up and jump the Phantoms before they knew that they were there. So if you're flying a Freelancer and you see a lone pirate, a lone Cutlass, and it's AI, be aware, Chris Roberts and his AI team are pretty smart and they know history. They may be incorporating this type of tactics into the game. If it's a human and, a human opponent and they're attacking you alone, I don't think a Cutlass is a ship that should ever be attacking anything alone. It should always bring friends. because of the opportunity for them to overwhelm one or two ships, but also the disadvantage that one stray shot could probably take it down. Well, that's my quick look on the Freelancer, and also Freelancer versus Cutlass. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for another Confession of a Star Citizen Addict. I just realized I never told my whole tale of joy for Star Citizen addiction, so here goes. In late 2012, I was kind of following the rumors about a new game made by Chris Roberts and stumbled upon the Cloud Imperium page. As the site was severely overloaded, I made my pledge for a 300i to the backup page on 10/11/12. When the Kickstarter campaign started, I pledged for another Aurora to give as a birthday present to a friend who told me about the game but couldn't afford to pledge. I registered in November on the new site and managed to get my backup page account transferred after a few problems. Then I kind of forgot about the whole thing for a few months. When I found out a few colleagues and friends also having pledged, I started my descent into addiction. We resolved to found a squadron together and started to look at the ships that we would need for our plans. One had a Freelancer for trade exploration, and the other got a Starfarer to refuel our fleet. So I changed my 300i to a 315p when the Origin brochure appeared for exploration. I got a Constellation to serve as a flagship for our squadron, and a 325a for a bit of protection. Then I showed the game to another friend of mine, and when he wanted to play as a pirate, I got him a Cutlass package, and my alcoholism reared its head. So I got myself a Caterpillar and another Cutlass for my newly planned pirate alt. Of course, he also needed a normal ship for our exploration squadron, so I also got him an Aurora LN. Some more ships got into my hangar because they looked nice. Avenger, M50, got melted for something new, Super Hornet, and we bought the next month, and suddenly Concierge button lit up. Then another friend had a birthday, and he liked to play Star Trek Online. I asked his girlfriend if he would be interested in Star Citizen. Long story short, I got him a scout package for his birthday, and used the rest of his birthday money to up it to a 300i and get an Aurora LX for his girlfriend and an LN for his brother. The end of LTI sales week got me a Freelancer. I just like how it looks. Aurora LX, 350R, and finally a Xi'an Scout. Then I thought my spending was over because no more LTI. Then t-shirts came back. Didn't get one the last time, and the patch had looked so nice, and the Drake mousepad looked really nice. Well, let's see what the future brings.